And for those familiar to these Banter Blitz sessions, they will know that I'm more likely to pick a game against you if you do a little gimmick like that. So this decision of my opponent surprised me a little bit, because usually you would not just exchange that bishop unprovoked. But naturally my opponent has a very solid position still. Just gonna go rook c8, you know, keep it simple, hinting at a possible exchange sack. My opponent quite correctly goes bishop h6. To which I am going to do what? So I can sack the exchange with taking the bishop and then exchanging, taking on c3, picking up a nice central pawn on e4. But I feel like that's a little bit soft. So instead I'm gonna exchange, and I'm not gonna take on c3, but I'm gonna take on I'm gonna play queen b6, attacking b2 and also d4. And I'm claiming here that my opponent's queen is more sort of offside than in a dangerous position for my king. And I'm assuming my opponent's going to play knight b3 here in order to defend everything, which he has done. And I'm going to go rook c4, attacking e4, and also activating the rook, preparing a doubling of the rooks. Also called a multi-purpose move. Multi-purpose moves are usually quite good. I was hoping he was going to go rook fe1, then I would have had queen f2, king f2, knight g4, and winning the pawn with a nice little combination. Queen f4 looks inherently suspicious, I would say, because my opponent is allowing some potential pins against the queen. The question is, how can I make use of that? So I can go d5. Then I think queen e5 is going to happen. Then I got d4. Knight e2. You know what? That's hard to say, but intuitively it looks quite good for me. So I'm just going to go for it. If my opponent protects the pawn with, let's say, f3, I think I'm anyway going to push d4. Although just improving the pawn structure looks fairly attractive as well. So if I push knight e2, rook c2, knight d4, rook b2, I don't think he can trap my rook. Rook fc1. If I take queen c1, rook b2, king g1, rook e2, king f1, I think my rook is actually trapped. So hang on. What else? Okay, I'm gonna go d4. So the reason I'm picking this particular time control is that I can speak a little bit more during the games. And against higher rated players, I think I will probably play 3 minutes instead, in order to, you know, it's going to be more about the play and just try-harding basically in those games. But these games against slightly lower rated players, I want to go for some instructional value, as they say. So here, d3, attacking the queen. Has to go queen e5, I think. I'm going to take on c2. Queen d2 is okay, but now I just win a pawn for free. He should have gone after the pawn on e7. Bishop a4 looks good. I think a5 is also good, but bishop a4 just looks simpler. Just gonna chop off that knight, and I think my c2 pawn is gonna win the day. It has to be said that my opponent has not played a bad game here by any means. It's even got a little bit of a trick here, which is rook d4, rook c2, and then if queen d2, there's rook c8 check, king g7, rook d2, and I think I have a bunch of ways of attacking the rook, but I think regardless of what I do, he can get back with the rook and escape. So I'm going to play the simple way, picking up b3. I'm going to pick up b2 probably later on, and that's going to be 3 connected pass pawns with very little counterplay. And I think that's going to be it, basically. Rook f1 is forced, I guess. I'm going to go rook d4, intending some more nastiness with queen takes c1. He actually should have gone rook c2 there. So in case I go rook c2, then he has queen b8, king g7, queen e5. There are some checks that can be a little bit unpleasant, although I guess I do escape with king h8, king h6, queen g3, g5, but I probably wouldn't have gone for that. But now I get the aforementioned trick with queen c1, and I should be home and dry. Rook d1 check, and queen e1. There was rook e1, and everything falls. Okay, good game, I would say. No huge mistakes at all, but eventually I got a few too many pawns. Okay. I think we're only playing Turks today. That's going to be the theme of the day. Mahmoud Donal, the Turkish Donald Trump. I think that's what they call my opponent. So I'm just going to go for classical d4, c4, knight f3. Probably going to see some kind of queen's gambit. Basically my main repertoire. Just playing my main stuff. See what it's got. So castles, it is a little bit unusual there, especially connected with c6. I think when you go for c6, you don't really want to have the bishop on b4 for whatever reason. Those moves don't connect well, and I think one of the reasons is that bishop b4 is an active move that needs to be followed up actively with c5 counterplay. And once you go for c6, I think the bishop is generally better off on e7 or d6, because here it's really not hitting anything. Basically, whenever he would chop off my knight on c3, then that would just improve my pawn structure with bc, or in this case rook c3, just giving up a knight for a bishop. And there's also this pin from the bishop on g5 to the queen on d8, and you really would like to see the bishop break that pin. So I think in my opponent's shoes, I would definitely recommend bishop e7, which he has done. So I would say to that move, nicely done. That was a good move. So I'm going to go for something that might look a little counterintuitive here, which is just to exchange an f6. The idea, though, is either after knight f6 or also bishop f6, I want to go knight to e4 and try and clamp down on the c5 square. It may have been more accurate though. It may have been more accurate to play queen c2 first, hitting h7, forcing g6 or h6, and then playing knight e4. So queen c7 is in general a decent move, but I think as an experienced player, you will learn that putting the queen into the X-ray of an opponent's rook is usually a bad idea. Obviously, there are going to be a bunch of exceptions, but generally, you're not going to be very successful with that. And in this case, he just lost the pawn. And yeah, knight e5, there's queen b6, and then c5 is going to come, and he's going to free his game just a tad. So let me try and play a little bit more accurately. Now, in case of queen b6, I have other alternatives like queen b3 and also queen c2, further clamping down on c5. You can also go I can also go b4. No, I cannot do that because b4 would run into queen b4, take it, rook b1, and queen e7. So it goes queen e7 immediately, which I have to say is an excellent move. Yeah, it's a really good move. Intending c5, and in case of c5, he would still be a pawn down, but he has considerably, if that were to happen, he has considerably improved his prospects. So I'm going to go for something a little bit unusual here, which is rook c5. And in case of knight e4, knight d7, I'm just going to go rook a5, attack that pawn, and hopefully gain some time. And for me, it's all about clamping down on c6. That is both a weak pawn, and it's also holding back his bishop on b7. If I can clamp down on that, I have a winning position. Otherwise, I probably don't have much of an advantage at all. So I think he played this mistakenly. He went for bishop a6, and now c6 is just hanging. And although it is said that by losing one of your weak pawns, you always get some activity for your pieces, I think in this case the activity is going to be quite short-lived. Queen a4, and I'm asking him really, where is he going to put his bishop? On d3, it's going to be hit by knight e5. If bishop b7, there would be queen a7 with a pin. So it really was a question to which there was no good answer. Okay, let me just go bishop f3. Knight c6 is coming next, trying to win the pawn on a7. And it's looking fairly grim for my opponent here. But as I said in the previous game, like, my opponent is not making major mistakes at all. It's just there are some small positional and also occasionally tactical mistakes that in the long run makes a lot of difference. So I could go queen c5, but I actually rather like queen e7. Just actually smothering his queen, as far as I can see, forcing a queen exchange, and then that's going to be 3 pawns up, 2 of them passed, sorry, 2 of them connected passers. I'm going to take, I should have gone king h7, but it doesn't really matter much. Now rook c8 next is the threat. Just forcing off more pieces from the board, and you know, when you're a lot of material up, just thinning the field. It's a good idea. Just thinning the field and win with as little effort as possible, right? That's what you want to do. So the pawns go marching on. Knight d6. Let me just calculate. King f8. b5, king e7. I can go for the pawn ending with b6, but is that really instructive though? You know what? I'm gonna bring more people to the party. Just support my knight on d6 and then push the pawns. I could take on f7, but where would the instructional value be in that, huh? Now, yeah, I don't know why he sacked the knight there, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter in the slightest. Okay, yeah, at the end, obviously, knight up, and his king is tied down, completely winning. Good game from our opponent, but as you can see, I'm not taking any prisoners so far against these lower rated players.